Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing fine. Today I am doing a presentation which I planned for the past couple of weeks. Of course, the holidays come in and I couldn't really do it the day that I wanted it, so I kept delaying. I think I delayed for 2 times, but nevertheless we are here. And this presentation is based on the book that I read. It's called The Lean Product Playbook, and it's by Dan Olson. He is such a great expert in terms of product management and lean product management. He brings his years and years of experience and put them all in a book. And as part of our Code Weekend bootcamp last year, and hopefully we'll be finishing by this month. We also initiated an internship as part of our company, Rapid Iteration. For those of interns being part of the internship, we asked them to develop products. And most of the things that we asked them to do and the structure and the process and everything is mostly based on this book. So for those of our students and interns, as part of Code Weekend / Rapid Iteration, they will also find it very useful. And to all of you listening, I'm sure you're building some side projects now or later, or in your startup and in different positions that you may kind of have now or in the future. You'll definitely need some structure, some framework, some process, and it will be all in this book. So let's get in. I gave the title for this presentation as Building Minimum Lovable Products, because it's very important that the products that we build is actually usable, is actually useful. And Dan starts the book by asking why most products fail. And this is the fact in the market, that most of the products unfortunately fail. And the reason for that is that because they don't meet customer needs. Let's say if you make a taxation software, which has some features, people can log in and do something, but it's not any better than people doing it by pen and paper. So your product gonna fail. So that means that. And actually that's the essence of product market fit, he says. This term you're going to hear a lot, product market fit, is very key for the success of a product. Next, I'll show an image of what I mean and with what Dan mean in his book by saying the market product fit. So to summarize my earlier example, is that when a product fails, it means that it doesn't really reach that product market fit. And this was a term that Mark Anderson of Netscape, he coined it, and he said startups fail because they never get to product market fit. So now let's see how we can achieve that, and what are the kind of layers and structures of achieving a product market fit. And so Dan proposes the structure, and he makes different categorization, and he puts them in layers. This is very important. That's like a kind of a pyramid. You can't make a pyramid without a base, right? So you can't have a product starting from UX on the top. You can't make a product going from value proposition. You can't make a product by just immediately starting from the feature set. So you have to start your process from like the base, and what he kind of outlines the base is the target customer, and from target customer you can go up to the underserved needs. When you segment your customers, then you look at their underserved needs. And then for their underserved needs, you outline your value proposition. And then from that point onward, then you can go and define your feature set, and then you make your UX, and then we'll see later that it is actually a process, and you have to do a loop for that and go back and forth. And he categorizes this pyramid into into part of the market, part of the product, and part of the solution space and problem space, which we will learn a little more shortly. So I talked about the process. So the same thing, but what it means by process is that when you go from step number one to step number 5, the part which is like the step number 6 and like testing with customers is the last step, which you may not need to do the loop, but you may need to do that, because the whole thing about these tips are that you are still not sure what's gonna work. So everything here is kind of a list of all the hypotheses that you have in terms of your target customer, underserved needs, value proposition, feature set, UX, everything. You gather some data, but you're still running with a lot of hypotheses. So when you go and really put the product in front of the customer, you may see that magically everything works and they love it, and that's great. Or in most cases, they may say, oh, I don't like this. Or you may see that they really love something, or they may need something more, and stuff like that. So you then come back to the start and then go through the process again. So let's dive in step by step, one by one, to the product market fit pyramid. So as I showed in the image before, a couple slides ahead, that there are 6 steps. And the first one, determine your target customers, identify underserved needs, define your value proposition, specify your minimum viable product, create your MVP prototype, and then test your MVP with customers. So I'm just outlining this once more again to have this as an agenda actually for this presentation as well, because we're going to go one by one in each of these steps, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. So again, coming back to this part, as you can see, there is a categorization here around problem space and solution space. And this is very key, and in this book, it has been emphasized a lot that without really digging deep into the problem space, you should not attempt and do anything in the solution space. So this is a common sense, right? You need to first know the problem and then go with the solution. And the nice thing about this book is that we know what the problem space is and how to deal with it. And in the problem space, for example, we have the target customer, right? We need to know who our customers are. Now we will learn a little more on that. And what are their underserved needs are, and what is our value proposition for their underserved needs, for the target customers' underserved needs that we are targeting. So it's really important that we do a great job in the problem space and then move ahead to the solution space. Okay. And also, there is also this categorization on the left around market and product. So market here is target customer underserved needs and their underserved needs. So what market is that a set of related customer needs which rests squarely in the problem space, as we can see. And a market is not tied to any specific solutions that meet these needs. So what it means is that sometimes we see market disruptors. For example, when a new type of product comes in and then does a better job in terms of meeting the market needs, or it means that the problem space. What it means is that in the market, the problem space, suddenly there can come some new products, like for example, there were taxis, there were taxi apps and stuff like that, and suddenly there were like Uber, right? So there can be this disruptors. It's really key to kind of understand around problem space and solution space. And one thing is mentioned in the book is that we need to know, for example, the what and the how. The what now being the problem space and the how being the solution space. So without, as I said before, without understanding and knowing the what, we can't go with the how. And the what describes the benefits that the product should give the customer, what the product will accomplish for the user or allow the user to accomplish. The how is the way in which the product delivers the what to the customer. What is problem space and how is the solution space, which is a very important concept here. And there is also a quote from Dave McClure that says, customers don't care about your solution, they care about your problems. And then that's why keeping problem space and solution space separate and alternating between them as you iteratively test and improve your hypothesis is the way to achieve product market fit. What it means, customers don't care about your solution, they care about your problems, is that it is really important that you do a great job in the problem space to really understand the user problems, because what the customers really care is, of course, their problems. And if you don't target them, they won't care about the solution space. And that's why your product may not be used, may fail and stuff like that. So I just want to check how we are doing in terms of the live. And I see there's a couple of people, and I can see the image. That's sorry to hear that. I hope others can see the presentation. If there was any issues, please let me know. This presentation is being recorded, so you all can watch it later as well. And I can see some people are already viewing and listening. I hope my voice is coming okay, and I hope you can see the screen and the presentation. And if you have any questions, please put in the chat, and I'll look at again in like 5-10 minutes. And nice, now I can see that you all can see the image as well. Okay, great. So let's get back to it. Okay, and now we're going to the next slide. Okay, now we're starting with the first step. The first step is to determine your target customer. Step one is the base of the pyramid. And this is like fundamental. Without the base, you can't build a pyramid. Like without the base, you can't build a building. So we talked about target customer, and in order to know your target customer, you have to do customer segmentation, right? Really understanding which specific customers you're targeting. To do that, there are different things that you can do, which is segmenting your customers based on their demographic, based on their psychographic characteristics, based on their behavioral characteristics, and their needs-based characteristics on their needs and what they want. So let's get in the demographic characteristics or quantifiable statistics of a group of people, such as their age, their marital status, their income, and education level. So, for example, if you're making a product, social media product, or like, an app or something, you need to specify what are, for example, the age range of your targeted customer. Are they between, for example, 18 to 25 and like mostly single or married, their income and stuff like that. So this is very key to get in order to really understand who you're targeting. The other thing that you have to look is the psychographics segmentation. And that is is used to classify a group of people according to their psychological variables, such as attitudes, opinions, values, and interests. For example, you have an app, or like, families who are sharing, let's say, pictures of their kids with their friends and family. You might target customers as moms who enjoy using social media and like sharing pictures of their babies with friends and family. So you can say, hey, you're doing this on social media, it's public, this and that. How about, we have this specific app for that we don't need to get into social media and be distracted with all this and that. There is this specific application that actually you can use, stuff like that. And then let's go to the behavioral one. For example, whether or not someone takes a particular action, or how frequently they do. For example, in the example I gave before when I was talking about psychographic segmentation, you can target moms who are spending, for example, at least 1 hour of time, on social media, sharing photos and other videos and other activities of their children or their families. So that kind of goes into behavioral segmentation that you can consider. And there's also needs-based segmentation. For example, you may come up with a product like security camera, where let's say business owners who have, let's say, a big building, they need to check for the security of the building. They want to know and get an alert when there is an intruder or a thief around, or someone just like coming by the door and doing some damage and stuff like that. So they need actually that. So that's another thing that you can consider, and that's gonna help you with segmenting your customers. And there is a very nice concept that you can adapt, and it's a very nice way to visualize this, and that's called personas. And personas are as a way to kind of put together all those stuff that I just mentioned when you want to do your customer segmentation. For example, your app can be the busy mom, and you put an imaginary name, an imaginary picture. They are not real. And you kind of say like, okay, age 32, female, married, this and that. And based on your observation, the data you gathered, the interviews that you did, so you're coming with some characteristics, and all you're considering is the things that you gathered from demographic, psychographic, behavioral, and needs-based segmentations, and putting them together in an easy-to-read manner, so that you yourself and your team members that are working on the product can always come back and remember what they are building and who they are building this app for. And it kind of put together everything here. So it's very important to have such a thing as part of your product development process, as an example is given here. And the other thing in terms of your product is to know about the technology adoption life cycle. And this is something that was kind of mentioned and then got really out in the public, was through this book, Crossing the Chasm, by Geoffrey Moore, and where he talks about how to market high-tech products. And in this book, Moore helped popularize the concept of the technology adoption life cycle, which divides the market into five, as you can see, five distinct customer segments based on their risk aversion towards adopting new technologies. And this is same for any product that you launch. You will have innovators, you will have early adopters, you will have early majority, you will have late majority, and you have laggards. So each of them have, of course, their descriptions. Innovators are technology enthusiasts who pride themselves on being familiar with the latest and greatest innovation. Some of us, especially those in coding and programming, and we are mostly innovators. We want to try new things, we want to learn, we want to innovate. But it's important that the app that you're building or the product that you're building, to identify, for example, who the innovators in your market could, and you will see that those gonna come in and will be the first people who are gonna register and start using your product and will share feedback and stuff like that. And then you'll also have early adopters or visionaries who want to exploit new innovations to gain an advantage over the status quo. So, unlike innovators, their interest in being first is not driven by an intrinsic love of technology, but rather the opportunity to gain an edge. For example, let's say when Shopify launched, of course there were innovators. There was innovators who wanted to like, oh, this is amazing, SaaS app for e-commerce. I want to just learn and know and how things are being done and stuff like that. They're innovators, but early adopters are those who want to be in that platform so that they can have the first shops launched and earn money and stuff like that, or they learn about how to build a template and build plugins and other apps on top of Shopify so that they can build apps and then build a business out of it. Similarly, early majority, late majority, and the last one is laggards. Laggards are skeptics who are very wary of innovation. They hate change and have a bias for criticizing new technologies, even if they have become mainstream. So it's very difficult to really win their hearts. But it's important to know that this adoption life cycle exists. It is very important to consider that when you are taking your product live, trying to scale it or decide on the features and stuff like that. And we covered personas already, which is very important in this step. And then now we're going to go to the next step, identifying underserved customer needs. So this was the second step. The first step was customer segmentation, or targeting who you want to build the solution for. And then now, when we know who our customers will be, which of course we have, in each step, we have a lot of hypotheses. Okay, this will be my target customer. You can be right, you can be wrong, and if you're wrong, you can come back and change it. But now let's say that we identified who the target customer will be, and now we are going into identifying their underserved needs. And again, customer benefits starts as a hypothesis. For example, we say, okay, we identified them. Let's say in the example of creating an app for the busy moms who want to share the pictures of their babies and kids and family on social media, and they spend, for example, 1 hour per day at least, or an average on social media doing this. We hypothesize, put together this statement that if we build a specific app for them, which is secure and private and stuff like that, they will really use it and they will like it, they will love it, like the features that you have. So you are starting with a lot of hypotheses. So the way to really uncover and understand their needs, these customer needs, is through customer discovery interviews. And the way to do it is that when you outline, for example, 5 benefits you want your solution to have, you can go and talk with your customer and show them or read them your product features, and then ask them, what does this statement mean to you, to check their understanding, or how might this help you, or if a product delivered this benefit, how valuable would that be to you? For example, if they say it will be highly valuable, then you say, why would this be of value to you? Or if they say, I don't see a value in this, then I say, why wouldn't this be of value to you? So the idea here is that you really dig deep, and onions have these layers and layers, to kind of like peel off all these layers and layers, and asking open-ended questions and talking to a lot of people in your customer segmentation circle to really understand what are their underserved needs are, right? Because whatever you're going to build, if that doesn't cover those target customers' need, then they won't use your product and your product going to fail. So it is very, very critical to go through this step. There is a very, very I know I'm emphasizing this a lot, but I really like this framework. It's called importance versus satisfaction framework. And it's just a basic structure. As you can see, we have x-axis and y-axis, and user satisfaction with current solutions is on the x-axis, and then we have importance of user needs on the y-axis, which it goes from low to high, and then from the other one as well, from low to high. So this framework gonna help you really understand and prioritize on what to build or what to consider as a need for your target customers. For example, if users not satisfied with the solution and that solution is not important for them, so it is not worth building a product for that, not worth going after. But if a user is really satisfied with the product and it is also very important for them, it means that there is already a solution that's doing a great job and you shouldn't touch it because it's doing great. But here is the opportunity. User is not satisfied with current solution, but it's very important for them. And then what you're gonna do, you're gonna lay in somewhere in the opportunity space, and then you can aim and build your product based on that, targeting that. And the example here is taxi and Uber, right? Users were really not satisfied with the taxis. The reason for that was that, for example, you're coming up from like a restaurant or like, airport, and you have to wait for a taxi. Sometimes there are, sometimes there are not. You can call, they may come, they may not come. When you get in, you don't know about the person. You can't really, there's no structure for feedback. So users are not satisfied with what is available there. But is it important? Extremely important. And Uber came and targeted that and provide everything that taxis weren't able to provide, and of course it became a success. That's a great example here because I showed here. So how are you going to know, for example, if a user is satisfied with the current solution, or how important one is to how important certain application or features are to them or not? So the way to do that is to actually, again, asking them, but also scaling their answers or measuring their answers into different options that they can choose from. For example, in terms of importance, you can ask them questions. In terms of, like, let's say, for example, if you're an Uber product team, and we survey thousands of our target customers and ask them, when you take a ride in a taxi or other hired car, how important is it to you that the driver is so polite? Why, for example, as I said, how important it is. So when we talked about like importance, then we can present them an option. Not at all important, slightly important, moderately important, very important, extremely important. And the same way with satisfaction. How, for example, satisfied you were with the cleanness of the taxi, completely dissatisfied, mostly dissatisfied, somewhat dissatisfied, and the rest of the options. And the good thing about this is that then you can give numeric values to each of these. For example, from 1 to 10 or from 1 to 100, and then you can line them up in this chart here, this structure here, and then you can visualize and see, for example, okay, number 5, low to high, from 1 to, let's say, 10, certain feature was, in terms of user satisfaction, was 3, and importance was 9. And so that will be an opportunity. So that's how you can do it. And actually, in the book, there's also a way that you can see that, as well as I just mentioned, satisfaction and importance. And all these, of course, the interviews has been done, and the product team comes back and put them all together in terms of all these points for different features. And then you can see that, for example, this point 5, this item dot, which has a 555 value here, or this feature, which has around, let's say, 58% of user satisfaction and 83 or something of user importance, is something worth looking at, right? But let's say feature number 41 is something that user not satisfied, but also not important, so you can ignore it. So it is very important to consider this, and it's called the importance versus satisfaction framework, and it's key, a very important concept in terms of product development. And in the main item one of the main items in the lean product process. And there's also other frameworks that you can use in order to identify underserved customer needs. One of them is gap analysis, the other is jobs to be done, and the other is the canoe model, which out of all these three, jobs to be done and the canoe model are the most popular of them. And in this book, the canoe model is the one that's being emphasized a lot and been used a lot in a lot of product teams. And we can just go and review them. The first one, let's start by the gap analysis. The gap analysis framework says that you can understand a gap or a need when you subtract importance from satisfaction. So this is great. So basically, of course, what's left out of this formula will be a gap, a need. But there's one problem in this, and that's that, for example, using a 0 to 10 scale, if a need had an importance of 10, let's say a need has an importance of 10 and a satisfaction of 5, the gap would be 5. 10 minus 5 equals 5. But if there is another need, an importance of 6 and a satisfaction of 1, again it would be 5, right? But this is not true because a gap of 5 on a need with importance of 10 should be more important than the same size gap on a need with importance of 6, because importance of 10 means this is really important. You have to really, and that's really a need for the customer. So that's why, I mean, it's good to have in mind. Maybe in some cases it can be useful, but that's why it's not widely used. So let's go to check the next one, jobs to be done. So the jobs to be done formula says that opportunity score equal importance plus maximum importance minus satisfaction. So this actually gives a much better score to identify an underserved customer need and the opportunity that it brings. Now let's go ahead with the same example that we just did with the gap analysis, and let's use this formula for it. So here, for example, the importance of 10 and satisfaction of 5 would have an opportunity score of 15. And then for the second one, importance of 6 and a satisfaction of 1, the opportunity score will be 11. So that way, now we know with this formula, we understand that the first one has a better opportunity score. So it's a much better formula to apply and implement and use. And this was a kind of a concept and a framework that was done by this guy Ulrich, and the main kind of idea around this methodology is that customers buy products and services to help them get a job or a task done. That's why it says job to be done. Customers decide which product to buy based on how well it delivers their desired outcomes for the job to be done. And then Clayton Christensen and the others have promoted this approach, commonly referred as job to be done. You can look at those authors and personalities as well, but the essence of this framework is this formula. And then there is also another formula, which is also very important, is that opportunity to add customer value. So how are you gonna understand or see that if you have an opportunity to for example, develop a feature that can be used and you can launch so that your customers can use. The opportunity here for each point is simply the maximum amount of customer value that can be added. So let's see if yes, what I mean with opportunity to add customer value is here. Let's see here, satisfaction, we have the percentage goes from 0 to 100, and the importance goes from 0 to 100. And there's two opportunities, opportunity A, opportunity B. So the opportunity A, based on the formula, has a score or a value of 0.21. And the opportunity B has a score of 0.63. So which one is higher? Of course, the 0.63 is higher, and it means that you should prioritize adding or developing this feature which has a score of 0.63, meaning that opportunity B. This is a great way to visualize the stuff. I mean, these formulas, these shouldn't scare you that, oh, I need to, implement all these formulas and stuff like that. No, first you need to gather all these data and give them numbers and scales, and then putting them into these formulas gonna help you prioritize what you want to add and what you want to build as a solution for your targeted customers' underserved needs, as the way to put it. Nice. And then the canoe model. This comes to the canoe model is another excellent framework for understanding customer needs and satisfaction. And is developed by quality management expert Nuriaki Kano. That's why the name comes from the author's surname, from the expert's surname. And the utility of the model is that it breaks customer needs into three relevant categories. And as you can see, there are must-haves, and there are performance, and there are delighters. Must-haves or have to be there in order for the customer needs to be fully met. The more you have it, the more it will, kind of get their needs met. Performance is more is better. It is not as important as a must-haves, but it is very important to have it as part of your product. And the lighters, you don't have to have it, but having it gonna bring that wow effect for your customers. So this is what we have around the canoe model, and by this, then we are wrapping up the step 2, which is identifying underserved customer needs. And the things I mentioned about satisfaction, importance versus satisfaction framework, and also the frameworks that I outlined here based on the book, gonna help you really understand your target customers' underserved needs. Before I move ahead, I just want to peek into what's happening. Nice. I can hear your voice. Okay. Maybe there's some issue with your. Please check your audio records, audio settings. Hope that works. And if there are any other questions, please put it in the chat. Nice. Let's move on. Okay, now we are going to the step 3. And I'm going to start the step 3 by a quote from late Steve Jobs, which he says, which is will be relevant to what we're going to talk, is that people think focus means saying yes to the thing you have got to focus on. But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that are there. You have to pick carefully. I'm actually as proud of the things we haven't done as the things I have done. Innovation is very important. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. So it's very important because when you identified your target customers and you identified their underserved needs, and now you want to outline and define your value proposition, you may go crazy with, like, we're gonna do this, this will be that we will present this, but and that's not an ideal thing to do. And actually, one of the best definitions of a strategy is to deciding what you're not going to do, right? It's in life as well, same as in the products, that you will have a lot of things in front of you, but you have to make a strategy on what you do and how you're gonna proceed. And the way to do is you're gonna have to say, or have to decide what you are not going to do, what you are not going to read from the list of all the books that you have in hand and stuff like that. Okay, let's move on. In terms of now defining your value proposition and considering what we read and saw in the Canoe model, this is a template. And you can see in the first column, you list the benefits. One per row, grouped by type. You want to include the must-haves, performance benefits, and the lighters that are relevant to you and your competitors. And those in the rapid iteration internship may remember that I provided and presented them with these items for their products. And the list of the benefits were categorized in terms of must-haves, performance benefits, the lighters. So you can do that for your own products as well. And you should have a column for each relevant competitor and a column for your product, as you can see in the template as well. And the competitors doesn't mean it's direct competitors. Maybe in the area that or the product that you are aiming to build, maybe doesn't have like a direct competitor, but there should be still alternative solutions to your product that customers are currently using to meet their needs. For example, for an e-commerce product, let's say in a developing country, maybe the competitor will be that people are going on their own and buying their own products. So that's still an alternative. So it's nice to consider that and have this template as a way to put together all the benefits in these categories. So how are you going to come up with each of these benefits? First of all, and it's very important that you brainstorm, and you have to do it with your team. And it's very important to kind of be open to a lot of thoughts and ideas. And then the way to one of the methodologies to gather the list of benefits is user stories. And a user use story sample is, for example, for example, let's say, as a book reader, I want to be able to read books frequently and online, so that I can, for example, increase my level of knowledge in certain areas. I'm just throwing an example. It can be a lot of other stuff. As a let's say busy mom, or as a busy mom, I want to share pictures of my kids online, so that I can share or I can share updates about my kids with my friends and family, stuff like that. So if you can outline the benefits like this, then you can identify here a couple of things: a user type, what they want to do, and what benefit they want to achieve. That for the desired benefit will be something that your product can outline and allow them to do as well. Let's say if you're gonna build an app for that specific, for example, category of moms, then your product should have a feature for uploading videos and pictures, and it should have a way to share those or notify that mom's, for example, family and friends about a picture being posted. And Bill Wake is an agile thought leader who says that good user stories should be independent, so it should be negotiable, should be valuable, should be estimable, should be small, and should be testable. These are the key elements and nice things that one needs to have in terms of having a great list of user stories. In terms of after you define your value proposition with this template, using this template, then you can come and do specify your MVP feature list, which as I explained, with these items. And the other example I put in the slide is, for example, as a professional photographer, I easily upload pictures for my camera to my portfolio website, so that I can quickly show my clients their pictures. So you can do the same for your own products. This activity then will help you to specify your MVP feature set, your minimum viable products feature set, because of course, if you want to build a product, you need to specify the list of the things that you want to build into the product. So this step is that. Okay, let's move on. And the other way that you can identify, mostly prioritize what feature you're gonna build first or add first, is using return on investment, ROI, which means return divided by investment. And so this is generally a term that's generally used in terms of finance and stuff like that, and investment. But in terms of helping you with identifying your feature list, is that your investment in terms of building a product, which mostly you are building software product, is how much developer weeks is needed and what is the value that it creates. Okay, so for that, for example, you have different ideas from your list of features that you listed through user stories, and from all the information that you piled up from going from step 1 up until step 3. So there is a feature or idea A, B, C, D, F. You can see that, for example, idea B has a similar return to idea A, but it takes more developer weeks to build comparing to idea A. So that way, now you need to put the idea A on the top of the list, because it is a very important element that you need to consider, and you need to build and need to have. And also, when it comes to deciding now in terms of your MVP candidate, remember we had this template from the step 3 around using the canoe model to kind of categorizing benefits under must-haves, performance benefits, and delighters. So after you kind of gone through this step of prioritization by considering the return on investment, which means developer weeks comparing to how much value it has, then you can bring them and put them in a template like this, which you can put them, for example, feature 1 is a must-have, or feature C or idea C is a delighter, or let's say feature X is performance benefit. So you can put them all in the structure, or you can also aim for like, hey, in V1, I'm gonna do this, a couple of them, and then in V1.1, I will do this, V1.2, I will do this. So this is also a great way that you actually need to have and really work with your team and decide on what you're gonna build in terms of the benefits, and share with everyone and agree, so that you know what you're gonna do in the next step, which will be step 5. So let's just remember and remind ourselves what we have done so far. First, we formed hypothesis about your target customers, our target customers. Second, we formed hypothesis about our users' underserved needs, right? And third, we articulated the value proposition we plan to pursue so that our product is better and different, right? We know our customers, we know their needs. Now we know our value proposition. Then we identify the top features that we believe will address those needs, and we broke them in smaller chunks, which is very important. That we should always like put them in smaller chunks, so that we are able to really do it quickly and efficiently. And then we prioritize those feature chunks based on ROI, return on investment, like, how much developer weeks gonna take and how much value it's gonna create. And then selected a set of those feature chunks for our MVP candidate, which you hypothesize, which I kind of mentioned a couple of times, that the whole process, we are going with a lot of hypotheses, so which we hypothesize that customers will find valuable. And now we are moving to the step 5, and that's creating your MVP prototype. When we talk about MVP, there is this general consensus and general kind of knowledge around what the MVP is. Here in the book, Dan nicely puts that that's not true, and MVP is a product that's actually functional and reliable and usable, and it can be delightful or not, but at least it should be functional, reliable, and usable. So it's always nice to consider that. And in terms of testing your MVP, there are different ways and tests that you can do. There's 2 ways to do it. One is the qualitative test, and one is the quantitative test. For qualitative tests, it is more on a smaller scale. Quantitative tests are more in a larger scale, which is mostly useful if you do it when you are in the V2, V3, V5 of your product, and you have a large customer base. But he recommends, and I think this is a very good idea, to when you're just starting building a product, that you do a lot of qualitative tests. And in terms of the product, you build a wireframe and you show it to your target customers. You build a mock-up, you show it to your target customers. You don't have to do all of them. You can do 1 or 2 of them, or just 1 of them. But it's very important that you do these tests and you put it in front of your customers and really see what they think and where they struggle and what they like and what they don't. But in terms of doing tests, these are these options. Of course, for quantitative tests, there's a lot of other options as well. Most of the quantitative tests have tools available that you can use online. For example, doing A/B testing and explain our videos and stuff like that. But for qualitative testings, there's for especially for the products, there are some of the things that you and your team needs to do and work on it. So this is not part of the one of the steps, but it's like in between the step 5 and 6, applying the principles of great UX design. Is that the UX design iceberg is very key here in terms of like what we see as a visual design has a lot of layers down there. We have conceptual design, we have information architecture design, we have interaction design and stuff like that. And all of these then are the basis for the visual design that we see. In terms of what we have in the conceptual design, is that the conceptual design is going with the concept of what we're going to build. For example, in terms of specific user needs, culture of that country or the place, type of the users, on what they like in terms of, or what they have access to in terms of the devices, maybe mobile, maybe laptop, maybe not, maybe desktops. So you kind of can decide on the concept on what you want to do. For example, Uber did their whole design having people who needs a taxi for a ride. That's why when you, for example, open the Uber app, you immediately kind of like see a map of all like kind of the drivers and their wait times and stuff like that. So that's like kind of the base layer that you can consider. And when it comes to the next step is the information architecture, which kind of sitemaps are part of it. That, for example, you can see sitemap for a sample website here that log in, log out, and then it kind of shows all the navigation menus and submenus of a website. That's nice to have, and it is critical to have a great UX design. And then we have the interaction design, which is kind of like a way of like a flow chart where you say, if user clicks here, then they will go there. If user logged in, then they will be able to access, for example, this part. If not, they'll be directed to to login page. If they don't have an account, they'll register, and all these steps is nice to be outlined, so that then having the conceptual design and the information architecture and then interaction design, then you will be able to come to the point of having a great UX design as part of it. And then, as of course, having a great UX design includes these steps, but also need to be considered the visual design aspect of it as well, which is the color, typography, graphics, style guides, layout grids, and mockups. Which each of these steps are very important. Choosing the right colors, choosing the right fonts and text, and choosing the right images depending on your product that you're building. Having style guides to make things consistent, and for your layout grids, which you can use CSS Grid or Flexbox, and creating mockups if you'd like, for where users can actually click stuff and see all those color typography, stuff like that, which you have a great tool for that, Figma or InVision Studio or other tools that you can use. Or I think, there's other tools as well, but the famous one, easy to use one, and the one that we know is Figma, that you can create before you actually do and code your product to showcase its great UX design. So, and in terms of design principles, there are different principles. For example, there is one Gestalt principles, and there's visual hierarchy and principles of composition and responsive design and copy, which all of these steps are very important to have a great UX design. For example, the Gestalt principles says about we as humans, makes more sense for us to see similar items close to each other as a way to be able to, for example, find them or use them or find our way into the app. Let's say putting login in one side of the application or the website, and putting the logout on the other side, it will be difficult for us to find it. But if we see login and logout together, then we kind of easily relate to it as a way that, okay, we can enter the website by this. If you want to get out of it, we know where to find it. And there's a couple of other principles around Gestalt principles that you can check online as well and read more about it. Visual hierarchy is also very important in terms of, for example, what comes on the top, what the important things being on the top, and the text or other stuff being on the little lower. So this is also very key. Unity, contrast, balance, and use of space, also very important aspects of visual design that you need to consider. And of course, responsive design, as you all know, is very important, where users have a lot of different devices, and the design that you're gonna make is really key to respond to most of those. And the last but not least is copy, which means that all the text and all the messaging that you have on your product and your main page and all sub pages is important for user to understand what your product is doing, what each feature and each functionality means, and for them to be able to use it properly. Step 6, which is of course the final step, is again coming to the question of quantitative tests versus qualitative tests. That you, as I said earlier, that it's recommended that you do a lot of qualitative tests, especially when you are building your own product. And how many customers should I test with is very important to kind of, first of all, before we answer how many customers should you test with, is to answer a question around or consider the fact that you have to do these tests in waves. At least 3 waves is recommended. Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, all these waves. In each wave, then you can consider around, for example, 5 to 8 customers that you can do your interviews. And you can do your interviews in person or remote or in unmoderated way, where it is, of course, very ideal that you do it in person. And if you can't do it in person, then you can do it remotely. And there are also ways to do it unmoderatedly using some tools, where the tools gonna help you recruit your target customers, and then you can have some screening questions, and then they can use your product and you can watch them later, or you can be online as well and watch them. But it's very important that you do it in person, whether you can, next to your target customer or with them in a space, or if that's not possible, then do it remotely. And how to recruit customers in your target market is that you can consider, university, you can consider events, you can consider in some countries there are like recruitment agencies where they recruit your target customers for you and then get paid for it. And it's also important that, it's different in different cultures, but if you want to really get some serious feedback and really appreciate the time of your target customers testing your product, your MVP, it's nice to reward them or pay them for their time. It can be a coffee, it can be money that you can give, a cash that you can give. It's recommended, they say, that it should be something that you can reward them because of their time and their honest feedback. And it's nice that they know it, because then they will make time for it and really make sure that what you gain out of it is useful for you and your team and your product. And in terms of structuring your test, it's really key to kind of structure it in a way that you allocate the first 5 to 10 minutes in terms of getting really comfortable with your target customer that are there for the interview, and ease the environment, and then spend the next 45 minutes, 50 minutes asking your questions. And it's very important that the questions should be open. It's important to make them open where you hear a lot more about your customers' way of thinking and their thoughts and their ideas, and anything that may surprise you maybe in terms of their needs. So the next 50 minutes then you can spend asking those questions, and the last maybe 5 to 10 minutes You can wrap up conversation, you can ask them any closing questions, and you can provide them with whatever reward you have in mind in terms of a coffee or a chai or money or stuff like that. So in terms of capturing and synthesizing the user feedback in different waves, for example, think of like you talked with 5 people and you take your notes, and for example, thought feature X was valuable and unique. Who said yes or who said no? And overall, for example, you can score them based on that, like 80%, 60%, and you can have like a general then score in terms of feature set, in terms of UX design, in terms of messaging. And you can, of course, categorize their feedbacks in different categories, but the main ones could be the feature set, UX design, and messaging, as outlined in this template. And you can also ask or have how valuable it was, the product that you showed them from 1 to 10, how valuable it was for them, and also how easy to use it was. It's very key to have these as well. So when you then get all these feedback, then you go back to your team, consider all these points. For example, in the UX design part, it says didn't see sign up link. 60% of them think the same, or had difficulty with registration. So you go and fix those features, improve them, and then do another interview with 5 people as part of wave 2, and then measure them again the same way. And after hearing and doing everything in the second wave 2, then go ahead with wave 3 and try to make it as perfect as possible for the user, where your scores should improve. For example, if it's 80%, it should be 95 or 100, or this was 60, it should be now 95 or 90 or something like that. For each wave should bring improvement. And in terms of how valuable it was, this score should go ahead, and also how easy to use it was. It's nice to have it also higher score, that you know that, for example, you are doing some progress. Otherwise, it won't be worth doing anything. So this is how you're gonna conclude with step 6 of testing your MVP with your customers. And the thing about lean product design is that it is a loop, and you have to iterate. So you hypothesize, and then you design, and then you test. And then after your test, you learn things, and then you again go into the same loop. And this is how things gonna be for your product. This is this life cycle. This is a live thing. It is your product is a living thing. And so you have to keep this loop going. And because technology changed, user needs changed, and you're always going to learn new things, and you'll have different new hypotheses, and then based on that you design and you test, and then you learn a lot of things, and then you circle around the same thing. So it's very important to have that in mind. And I talked about the waves, iterative user testing. For example, in wave 1, things were like a little difficult, and then it got better and better as it went further. So it is important that there is always improvements. And actually doing it in waves is going to help you really catch if there is any problems or inconsistencies out there. And one thing is really nice to have in mind is that when to pivot. And pivot means that, for example, you are doing something, building this product for this customer segments, and you did everything right, but you're always hitting a wall in terms of like number of users using it, or the payments that you're receiving in terms of users paying for your product to use it, and actually you're not really doing a great job in terms of acquiring new users and all other metrics. So basically, if you see there's an analogy of mountains here. So when you build a product, you kind of like start climbing this mountain. But the goal is to actually go to the peak, right? Because you want to climb this mountain. But you start like climbing, and then you're like, actually not doing any progress by just staying in this height, right? you're not actually climbing this mountain. So at this point, consider doing all these tests with your customers in different waves, but we're not going anywhere. Then you can do a pivot, and pivot is, in this analogy, is to finding another mountain to climb. So changing, and by that, in terms of your product, means changing one or some of your main hypotheses about what your customers want. You can change your target customer, some or all of them can make new hypotheses in terms of the features and the things that they may like, or the problems, or their underserved needs and stuff like that. So going through the whole process again and just climbing this new mountain, and hopefully this will be something that you will gain some momentum and actually really climb that mountain, and your product going to be a success. Preserve or pivot. It is a question that you can again consider the points I mentioned and then decide. So we had a packed presentation. I'm sure I covered a lot. The book covers a lot. I try to summarize as much as possible. So again, let's review. The lean product process guides you through the formulation and testing of your hypothesis with these 6 steps. Determine your target customers that we went through and understand based on all these psychographic or demographic and other segmentations. And then identifying their underserved customer needs, which we gone through in terms of doing discovery interviews, and was one of them to really understand what they need. And defining your value proposition was the step 3. And specifying your minimum viable product feature set was the one that we used, kind of mainly canoe model to categorize them. And your value proposition, in step 3, we also talked about the importance versus fashion framework, which was a key item in there. And then we went to create your MVP prototype and testing your MVP with customers, which is the last item and step in the MVP, in the lean product process. And that depending on what you learn, then you may keep on improving your product, or you may go back and repeat the cycle. I hope it was useful. Please let me know if you have any questions at any point in the chat or directly in the community. I enjoyed reading the book, and if you had access to it, please read it. And yeah, I hope you're having a great time. Happy New Year for all of you. I will keep doing these presentations, probably weekly. So hoping to see you at the next. Thanks.